Money has a way of revealing what already lives inside a person. It doesn't change character as much as it exposes it. When the number is small, people can afford principles. But when the number becomes life-altering, beliefs are suddenly labeled flexible, and values start negotiating for comfort. Most people think they know their limits. They say, "I would never sell myself." But they've never been tested at the level that truly matters. It's easy to be moral when the cost is low. It's harder when one decision can erase every financial worry. That's when money stops being money and becomes temptation. Money doesn't ask loudly. It whispers. It promises safety, freedom, and relief from fear. It disguises compromise as opportunity, and it frames surrender as intelligence. This is how principles quietly disappear. The larger the offer, the more respectable the pressure becomes. Friends encourage it. Advisors rationalize it. Society praises it. Walking away is labeled foolish, emotional, or arrogant. Standing firm suddenly looks unreasonable. People underestimate how seductive security feels. Security convinces you to trade tomorrow's respect for today's comfort. It convinces you that silence is maturity, that compliance is wisdom, that resistance is unnecessary suffering. Money is patient. It waits for exhaustion. Many betray themselves not because they are greedy, but because they are tired. Tired of struggle. Tired of pressure. Tired of being misunderstood. Money arrives as rest. And rest can be dangerous when it costs your spine. True tests rarely arrive during moments of weakness. They arrive when you are capable of choosing either path. That sets what makes them real tests. When walking away hurts, but taking it would haunt you. When both options are heavy. When comfort and conscience stand opposite each other. This is where most people fail quietly, not in public scandals. Not in dramatic betrayals, but in private decisions no one ever hears about. Moments where they choose ease over alignment, and call it just being practical. Money also creates urgency. Take it now. This one set come again. You be stupid to hesitate. Urgency clouds judgment. Principles need space to speak. Urgency tries to silence them. What makes these moments brutal is that the world rewards the wrong choice immediately. Money gives instant relief. Approval follows fast. Consequences arrive slowly. By the time regret shows up, the decision feels irreversible. Most people don't lose themselves all at once. They lose themselves in increments. A small compromise here, a quiet agreement there, until one day they realize they no longer recognize their own reflection. This is why money is such a powerful test. It doesn't threaten. It seduces. It reframes surrender as success. And it disguises loss of self as winning. Only a grounded person can see through that illusion. Very few people pause long enough to ask, what will this cost me internally? They calculate numbers. They calculate outcomes. They calculate appearances, but they don't calculate identity. And identity is the most expensive thing you can sell. Some decisions follow you for life, not because of what you gained, but because of what you traded away. Peace, self-respect, the ability to look at yourself without excuses. Those are currencies money can replace. This is why moments like these matter. They are checkpoints in a person's zip story. They reveal whether you are owned by opportunity or guided by principle, whether you are driven by fear or anchored by values. Muhammad Ali understood this test deeply. He knew money could buy comfort, but it could also buy silence. And silence, once purchased, is rarely given back without cost. He treated money with respect, but never with obedience. Ali understood that saying yes to everything means standing for nothing. That wealth without sovereignty is just a polished cage. That comfort gained through compromise slowly poisoned self-trust. He refused to let money decide who he was. This is why his decision mattered beyond the number, because it wasn't about generosity or pride. It was about authorship. Who gets to write your story? Your values? Or someone else sets check? When money tests who you really are, there is no audience, no applause, no instant clarity, only you and the truth you have to live with. Most people choose relief. A lie chose alignment, and that choice set the foundation for everything that followed. The offer didn't arrive casually. It wasn't symbolic. It wasn't hypothetical. It was real, deliberate, and calculated to impress. A king, immense wealth, and a number so large, it could instantly rewrite any man's future. For most people, an offer like this would end all discussion. There would be no pause, no reflection, no inner debate. Money at that scale doesn't feel like opportunity. It feels like destiny. The number alone carried psychological weight. Not just millions, but generational freedom, homes, security, influence, comfort beyond imagination. The kind of offer that silences doubts before they fully form. The kind people wait a lifetime for. What made the offer powerful was not just the amount, but who it came from. Authority gives money gravity. When power extends an invitation, refusal feels like defiance. Everyone around would have advised acceptance. Managers would call it smart. Friends would call it a blessing. Critics would call it inevitable. Walking away would instead just be questioned. It would be ridiculed. Most people never experience pressure at this level. They assume they would stay true, without ever being tested properly. But pressure multiplied by prestige has a way of bending people quietly, especially when the world expects obedience. This wasn't set money offered without expectation. Money never is. It arrives with implied loyalty, with unspoken silence, with alignment demanded, not requested. That sets the part most people ignore. The offer promised safety, but safety always comes with walls. Comfort always comes with conditions. And wealth given by power often expects gratitude expressed through compliance. That sips the invisible contract. To the outside world, this looked like an obvious win, a once-in-a-lifetime deal, a story people would envy forever. But inside, the equation was different. Because not all costs are financial. Some are personal, permanent, and internal. Muhammad Ali understood something critical in that moment. Money can change circumstances, but it also reshapes boundaries. Once accepted, it changes who gets a say in your life. And Ali was unwilling to give that power away. He knew this offer would define him, not by what it gave, but by what it asked him to tolerate. Every large reward tests alignment. This one tested identity itself, and Ali saw that clearly. What makes this moment remarkable is that he didn't treat it emotionally. He didn't inflate the number in his head. He didn't fantasize about outcomes. He looked directly at the trade being proposed, and he waited honestly. For many, this would have been the peak, the moment they tell their grandchildren about. But Ali saw something deeper. He saw that some doors once entered never let you leave the same person you were, and that understanding made all the difference. The offer could have changed everything, and that's exactly why it was dangerous. The refusal didn't come from arrogance. It didn't come from pride. And it certainly didn't come from ignorance of what was being offered. The answer was no, because the offer crossed a line that Ali had already drawn long before the money appeared. Some lines are invisible to others, but sacred to the person who lives by them. Muhammad Ali understood that not every offer is a gift. Some are tests disguised as generosity. They ask quietly, "Who do you belong to now?" They don't demand loyalty immediately. They assume it will come naturally once comfort settles in. Ali recognized that trap instantly. The problem was never the money itself. It was what the money would eventually ask for. Silence, compliance, softened truth. A calmer voice when conviction demanded firmness. Ali knew that once you accept the reward, you surrender the right to speak freely. He had spent his life paying a price for his beliefs. Public criticism, lost income, isolation, pressure from every direction. To accept the money would mean undoing that sacrifice retroactively. It would mean admitting that principle has an expiration date. Ali believed that integrity only works if it's consistent. You don't get to be principled when it sets easy, and flexible when it sits profitable. That kind of morality is just strategy. Ali wasn't that interested in strategy. He was interested in truth. There is also something deeply personal about refusing power. Power doesn't like to be declined. It expects obedience masked as gratitude. Ali knew that saying yes would subtly shift the relationship. He would no longer be his own man. He would be supported, and support always comes with expectations. He also understood how identity erodes slowly, not in dramatic moments, but in small concessions. First you stay quiet, Then you avoid certain topics. Then you stop thinking about them altogether. Ali refused to begin that process. Many people think freedom comes from wealth. Ali knew freedom comes from ownership of self. You can be rich and owned. You can be comfortable and controlled. Ali valued sovereignty more than security, and sovereignty cannot be purchased back once sold. The refusal was also an act of self-respect. Ali didn't just want to wake up years later, knowing he traded conviction for comfort. He understood that regret compounds quietly, money spends quickly, but the knowledge of self-betrayal stays sharp forever. He chose the harder path knowingly, not because it made him look noble, but because it allowed him to remain whole. Wholeness mattered more than wealth. Alignment mattered more than applause. And peace of mind mattered more than numbers on paper. That is why the answer was no. Not because the offer wasn't set big enough, but because Ali knew exactly what it would cost him. And some prices, no matter how well dressed, are simply too expensive to pay. Ali understood something most people refuse to confront. Money never only gives, it reshapes the rules of your life. It changes who feels entitled to your time, your silence, and eventually, your decisions. Muhammad Ali knew that accepting money from power creates a quiet imbalance. You may still speak, but you speak aware of consequences. You may still choose, but your choices now pass through invisible filters. That sets how freedom erodes. Politely, the real cost wasn't it public control, it was internal pressure. The kind that asks you to hesitate before saying what you once said without fear. That hesitation doesn't announce itself. It arrives as being reasonable, and that sets how conviction softens. Ali had already seen this pattern in others. Strong voices that slowly lowered their volume, bold stances that became nuanced, truth replaced with diplomacy, not because they were wrong, but because comfort demanded cooperation. Money also changes your relationship with risk. Once you accept a fortune, you begin protecting it. Protection leads to caution. Caution leads to silence. And silence slowly replaces courage. Ali refused to let fear of loss govern his life. Another cost was dependency. The moment you take money with expectations, you surrender leverage. You are no longer fully independent. Even if no one says it aloud, the power dynamic has shifted. Ali valued independence too deeply to trade it away. There is also the cost of self-trust. Once you compromise a core belief, you teach yourself that values are negotiable. That lesson doesn't stay isolated. It spreads into future decisions. Each compromise becomes easier than the last. Ali cut that cycle before it began. He understood that wealth can insulate you from reality. It cushions consequences. It delays accountability. It gives you excuses to avoid difficult truths. Ali didn't want insulation. He wanted clarity, even if it was uncomfortable. The money could have bought luxury, but it would have sold something priceless. The ability to look at himself without explanation. Ali didn't want to justify his life to himself. He wanted to respect it. That respect was worth more than any figure offered. By refusing the money, Ali didn't reject wealth. He rejected ownership. Ownership of his voice, ownership of his values, ownership of his direction. He kept what mattered most, the right to remain fully himself. And that decision carried a cost too, but it was a cost he chose willingly. Muhammad Ali didn't walk away from money. He walked toward alignment. That distinction matters, because refusing something valuable is only foolish. If you don't know what you're protecting. Ali knew exactly what he was protecting. Muhammad Ali understood that legacy isn't built on what you accept. It's built on what you refuse when it costs you comfort. Plenty of people accumulate wealth. Very few keep their spine while doing it. Ali chose to keep his spine even when the world told him it was unnecessary. The lesson isn't said about money being bad. It sets about money being persuasive. It changes the language of decisions. It makes compromise sound reasonable. It reframes silence as wisdom. Ali refused to let money rename his values. He showed that freedom isn't the absence of struggle. It sets the absence of ownership by others. You can live simply and be free. You can live richly and be trapped. Ali chose freedom with uncertainty, over comfort with conditions. What makes this lesson powerful is that it applies far beyond celebrities and kings. Every person faces smaller versions of this test. Jobs that ask for silence. Opportunities that require you to shrink. Rewards that come with invisible strings attached. Ali Sit's decision reminds us that principle only matters when it costs something. If your values survive only when they're convenient, they scepter not values, they scepter preferences. Ali lived in a way that made his values expensive. That's why they were real. He also showed that self-respect compounds. You don't see the return immediately, but over time, decisions made in alignment create a life that feels internally clean. No explanations needed, no justifications rehearsed. History didn't remember Ali for how much money he could have taken. It remembered him for how firmly he stood, for refusing to be bought, for choosing sovereignty over security. That kind of wealth doesn't show up on paper, but it outlives every number ever written. The final lesson is simple and uncomfortable. You will be offered things that test who you are. They once always look like bribes. They still look like opportunities. When that moment comes, remember this: money can buy many things, but once you sell principle, there is no refund. Ali proved that some decisions echo longer than any fortune.